Here we are.
Mm-hmm. Took an extra long walk this morning.
How long?
Hour 42.
Mm.
Yeah. Had the time.
That's so
Finished up show prep early.
That's so long to walk.
Yeah.
Do you have a show? Oh, this show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nothing today.
Spike, can I ask you, why are your tweets bold now?
So they should not be anymore. So I think what happened, because when you look around, there's like a lot of that happening, is when
it was only you that I saw that.
So I switched to the new iPhone, and I guess what happened is that everything, like when you switch to new iPhone, most of the things are the same, but there's some things that are different. And all of my font, not just that I typed, but that I read, everything looked like a little bigger, looked bold. So everything that I was looking at was also bold. So I had no idea. So I think what it did is whatever that setting was, changed the settings on like things I was writing on. So the Twitter setting was also bold. So when I turned off the iPhone bold setting, it in turn turned off all of the other bold settings. But because everything I was looking at also looked what I thought it was when I saw it was, somewhere there's a slider where you can determine how big the font is and on your phone, and it's maybe one click bigger than it was before. So I didn't notice any difference between anything I was writing and anything that anybody else was writing.
Do you like the new iPhone?
Well, it's like every fucking iPhone. You get it and you're like excited, and then you're like, oh, it's exactly the same as the one before. The camera button is pretty cool, but aside from that, it's largely the same. Because I can't think, there's a lot of times where you're like, I want to take a picture of us, and then you go, hold on, let me find it. Now you just press the button, it's there. But aside from that, it's the same. I'm not upgrading again until my phone is unusable. I've done it too many times. I'm not falling for it again.
I know most people probably don't have a real need for this, but I've read that the modem is better on the phone, so you get like substantially better speeds that before you were like hardware stunted from it. There was a bottleneck from there.
Yeah.
And then obviously the USB-C is better for like file transfer and charging and stuff. But
isn't the 15 USB-C?
The 15 is, I believe it's USB-C, USB 2 though, and the 16 USB 3, faster speeds for file transfer. Again, most people don't have to deal with that sort of thing. Yeah. So
Bugbite 666 saying Trap was good. Trap was not good. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So
was that the concert killer movie?
Yeah. It was so bad that it made me angry that no one who made the movie had clearly ever been to a concert.
The trailer looked bad too. Like I did not.
So I didn't.
Interested.
I try to avoid trailers now because they show too much. So I just asked my wife, she was like, do you want to watch the Brad Pitt, George Clooney movie or this? And I assumed we would eventually watch the Brad Pitt, George Clooney movie. So I picked that, and it was just aggressively stupid. But all right, let's do it. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. 302-864-8643 is his direct cell. MortgageCS, become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process, briggsauction.com. And Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe, and most of the time me. Subscribe at rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter. On the show today, a shakeup in the NBA as the Knicks and Timberwolves make a big trade. We have the final check-in about the Person of Theseus, as someone asked a pod-related question about that. I have some more training camp countdown questions for Mike. Zach Lowe, no longer with ESPN, and War on Drugs goes the extra step for a Ricky listener in, I think it was Wisconsin. Before we get going on the show, we have passed $7,000 raised for our Bark in the Park team for Providence Animal Center to support the people, saving those homeless dogs and cats. You know, economy not great for everyone, so I appreciate everyone who has donated, but also it has caused an issue at shelters, a lot of nonprofits actually, as adoptions have really slowed down, which is tough because it means space. So every dollar really helps. Thank you to MortgageCS and LL Pavorsky who have sponsored the team. And if you want to join the team, we would love it. We would love it. We have a month to go. And if you want to get that t-shirt, it'll really help me on t-shirt count. So you get our special team t-shirt. The link will be in the description of this pod to join the team or to donate. Help us get to 20 grand. That's our goal. We're $13,000 away. 2 other Rights to Ricky Sanchez family podcasts, new episodes this week. The new episode of the Draft Council, our NBA draft podcast hosted by Dan Olinger, Ahmed Jama. This episode, listeners, including Mike, sent in their hottest college basketball takes, and they commented on them. A new episode of the Karl Landry Record Club, our music podcast hosted by me and Mutlu. We do Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory, A Boy Named Goo from Goo Goo Dolls, and a new song from a band called Fontaines DC that I loved, actually. And there is a live Karl Landry Record Club, our second one ever, will be happening in Underground Arts to celebrate the release of our friend Jason Lipschus's new book, It Starts With One, the Linkin Park biography. It's a great book. If you buy a ticket, you get the book, get it signed by Jason, have a good time. Then we'll listen to a bunch of new metal that night. The link to the tickets is once again in the description. GA is $10. And then if you want a book and get it signed, it is $29.08. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, we are a week away from Phillies playoffs, from Citizens Bank Park being filled with 44,000 people and at one time probably about 30,000 Surfside cans. Everybody drinks it because it's the best. It's a cool can. You look cool holding it if you're of age. You look cool drinking it and just tastes great. Lightly sweet, 3 grams of sugar, 100 calories. Motherfucker, it's good. All different flavors, green tea and vodka, lemonade and vodka, regular iced tea and vodka, raspberry tea and vodka. Yikes. Get it wherever you get your canned alcoholic beverages or go to statesidevodka.com. Get yourself a sampler pack. You can order it, get it sent right to your house. You got to be 21 though. And finally, Mike, you remember the lady that emailed the New York Times for not saying the name?
Yes.
73-year-old. So we didn't say her name because she wanted to hide her name. But then she sent an email. She was like, you know what? My, I think it was grandkids or godkids or whatever were like, have them say your name. So Wendy, you are a fucking soldier.
Wendy, put Wendy on the shirt that you're emailing about.
Yes, we'll put Wendy on it. Yeah, new Ricky shirt coming up. A listener submitted idea. We'll put Wendy on the shirt.
Good job, Wendy. Good job, Wendy's grandkids.
Yes. So Wendy. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
Laddie, sweetie, the man is here. Say the name. I say the name. I say the name.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin along with a guy that doesn't like the bold font. That is one Mike Levin.
Here we go. A trade to break up Deep August.
Yeah, it is incredible. They knew. The Timberwolves and Knicks knew we needed something to talk about. Basketball, podcasts all across the land. Heading through our second August. It is now August 58th. Mm-hmm. So here is the trade as reported by the only guy that reports these things now, Shams Charania, last night. The Knicks trade, and I guess the trade is not totally done yet because they need a third team, and there's going to be...
It feels like if that's the case, then it's not a trade yet. It feels weird to be like, we'll get somebody.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Whatever, somebody's going to do it.
Well, it seems like a bad bargaining position for them to be in, where 100%. Everybody knows they have to get it done, so you can just milk, whatever you want out of them.
Or imagine this trade being like, we couldn't find anybody.
Yep.
Take backsies.
Yep. So here is the trade. The Knicks trade, as of now, Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, a very sort of heavily protected Detroit first-round pick, to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Karl Anthony Towns. So before we analyze it, I would like to take a quick victory lap, as I've been saying the Knicks are going to trade for Karl Anthony Towns on this podcast and otherwise for, I think, at least a year now. And if you have a Knicks fan friend, just know that when I worked in New York with lots of Knicks fans, I used to tell them all the time, they're going to trade for Karl Anthony Towns. And they all got like the color drained out of their face and they all got very terrified. So if they're acting excited now, they are lying. It does seem like the trade in a lot of ways was a second apron, avoidance on some level from Minnesota, because Karl Anthony Towns is making almost $60 million. Gobert has a huge salary, and they'll eventually have to pay a big salary too. So
Towns making $49 million this year, $53 million next year, $57 million the year after that, and then a player option for $61 million in 27-28. That is now property of the Knicks, that contract.
So, and remember, they're also paying OG Anunoby $45 million a year as well. I think now the Brunson contract
descending 45 that final year.
Okay.
It's 36, 39, 42, then 45.
So ascending.
It's too early for me to know what the difference between descending and ascending.
No big deal. Just a complete
It's descending
opposite.
if you look forward and then go backwards.
Yes, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. There's literally no difference between ascending and descending. It's really just depending on where you're looking at it from.
That's right.
Yeah. So here's my take overall. We'll get into it. Would like to know your take. My take overall is they had to trade Julius Randle. I think it is an upgrade for the Knicks, though a sort of minor one. It is a better fit. I do think Cat is a loser. It seems like a significant downgrade for Minnesota, as Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert offensively seems like a primary ball handler who loves to get into the lane and sort of stuff. It doesn't seem like it works at all. I think it is a certainly a regular season upgrade for the Knicks. I do question how much it actually raises their championship odds, though.
Yeah, I mean, a really, really interesting trade on many, many levels, and we'll get to the like Sixers part of the level.
Cat also an Eagles fan, just like Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
I
think first things first, it's very funny that they broke up the Nova Knicks before they played a game together.
Yes.
I think that is funny.
Yeah.
And I think that is interesting. It's such a random time to do this trade.
Yes.
They must have been talking about it for a long time, and then somebody got maybe it was the Dante inclusion, or a pick something, or Minnesota lessened what they wanted out of it. I don't know, but they just gave Cat a bunch of this money.
I do wonder just on that, and you would think that the Knicks knew what Mitchell Robinson's status was going to be, but he's not going to be back till January now. I wonder if that made them a little more aggressive. I'm sure they had been pursuing it previously, but I wonder if they were expecting him to be back earlier, and that sort of sped it up a little bit.
Yeah, it seemed like such a kind of obvious thing that it was going to be someone like Clint Capella, who they ended up trading for, to just replace that. And I wonder if they thought, look, if we're going to trade Julius Randle for Clint Capella, we may as well try to get somebody who can also play with Mitchell Robinson, and that is what they got in Cat, and someone who can play the 4 and the 5. It is interesting. I think it really helps them, the Knicks, in matching up with the Celtics when both teams are healthy, because now they can go 5 out with Porzingis and Cat covering each other, and then OG and Mikal covering Tatum and Brown. And that's a very interesting matchup, and a matchup I would love to see in the other side of the playoff bracket, while the Sixers finally get the Sixers-Bucks series that we've been dreaming about for half a decade.
Yep.
And now with Doc there. And I think it really hurts them against the Sixers defensively, because that now Cat has to cover Joel Embiid, and he can't do that.
No, that has been one player that, actually like Andre Drummond, that Embiid has pretty regularly destroyed.
Yeah, and their rivalry adds a fun element to the already continuing to brew Sixers-Knicks rivalry. Ben Simmons will not be there to de-escalate the situation by choking out Karl Anthony Towns from behind. That'll be fun. I think the Tom Thibodeau Towns situation is very strange. They were not a good defense for all of those years in Minnesota under Thibodeau with Towns. and now he is once again the centerpiece, or at least the center of a Tibbs defense that he expects a lot out of, that he's going to play a fuckload of minutes of, and Mitchell Robinson won't come back for half a season at least. I think that it's compelling in the sense that OG, Mikal, and Josh Hart are good enough defensively that you can have a little bit more of a less rim protectory center. But I do think it's going to hurt him. I absolutely think it's going to hurt him.
Well, the most important guy on your defense is the guy protecting the rim. It weakens them. It has to weaken them.
But it also gives. But I think that's the trade-off, right? You can't get everything. So I think they're going to miss on some level a lob threat, and they'll have that when Mitch is healthy, and they'll probably try to get a bunch of Jericho Sims until that happens. But I think that the floor being spread for Brunson and having those other guys and trying to run, there's a lot you can do offensively with now running Brunson and Cat pick and pops, or Cat spread with OG or Josh Hart setting screens or whatever. It's a really interesting. That's a really, really good offensive five of Brunson, Mikal, Hart, OG, Cat. That's a really very good team. And I think losing Dante is going to hurt him, but I do think it's a vote of confidence in Deuce McBride, who was really good.
Miss a shot against us, by the way.
And did miss a shot against the Sixers, which was frustrating. It's just really interesting. It is a gamble trade for the Knicks in that Embiid signs his extension, finally, quelling all the rumors of Leon Rose is going to go get Embiid and bring him to the Knicks. Not going to happen.
Right.
And they decide to go get Karl Anthony Towns this offseason and, lock themselves into this team. The fact that Brunson signed an undermarket deal really helped them in a lot of ways, but they're locked into a lot of people for a long time. OG has injury issues. Cat is going to be paid a fuckload of money, and he's just not as good as that contract is. And Brunson is excellent. Brunson rules. He's a fun player to watch. He's a fun player to root for. I hated how he was officiated in that series. Whatever. He's a small guard.
Yes. We've said this a few times.
He's a very small guard.
There's not a lot of championship teams in the NBA history where the best player on the team is a 6-foot guard. And
the example of he was great, and I think he'll be great for a number of years. But Isaiah Thomas was just kind of this. He was just he's not as physical as Brunson is, and Isaiah Thomas was smaller than Brunson. But he fell off quickly because he just kept getting banged and injured, and then his hip got fucked, and he fell off, and now he hasn't been in the league. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Brunson, but I do think they are locking themselves into this kind of team, and they're going for it, and good for them. And Julius Randle would have been a really weird fit on this team as is. And when you have, this is a very interesting five, and if you add a healthy Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride, that's the 7 players that are going to play regularly for this team. But I'm not. If I'm a Knicks fan, I'm feeling excited at the possibilities, but also starting to feel a little claustrophobic by how little wiggle room they're going to have out of this thing.
Well, I sort of think too, and I want to be clear, I think Brunson is also awesome. He does one thing that leads him into your thought of his sort of quick decline eventually is he does work very hard for every basket. Yeah. He's a fine passer, but Isaiah Thomas was a way better distributor, I think, than Jalen Brunson is. All that said, I think that the offense you're describing will be very good during the regular season, but you're seeing in the NBA with the Harden-type players and Luka-type players that these teams that are centered around one guy creating all of the offense all the time, which as you look at this team, they will likely be, is really, really hard to win with, even if that primary offensive player is fantastic. And as good as Brunson is, from an offensive perspective, he's certainly not as good as Luka is, and he's certainly not as good as Harden was in his prime. So I think they're probably just asking too much out of him.
But having Cat spread the floor helps that, at least in some respect. And Cat can do a lot with the basketball, not at a crazy high level, but in the same way that Randall could like go get you a bucket in that way to get Cat off the hook a little bit. If they had just traded Randall for Mitchell Robinson or Clint Capella, then it was like really everybody else just clear out and watch. And Cat at least can post up smaller guys. He has proven it a little bit more in the playoffs last year after a big series win against the Nuggets, and covering Jokic in an impressive way, or at least physical like attempts.
I do think it speaks to how low Cat's value must have been league wide.
Well, with that contract, it's just a big contract, dude.
Well,
it's a big contract.
They got a fake first and Julius Randle for him, and
DiVincenzo, who's on a very good contract and is a good player.
But it does. If I had said to you 5 years ago that that's what Karl Anthony Towns is going to, we would have thought 5 years ago that Karl Anthony Towns, if he would be traded, it would have been one of these giant packages.
Five firsts.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
well, they just traded 6 firsts for Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
So
it raises their like best player ceiling and also puts more pressure on their top 5 guys. To not get hurt while playing 44 minutes a night for Tom Thibodeau, who will never change.
So we will get into how the Sixers end up playing them right after we talk about Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. What I like to say about a lot of our Rights to Ricky Sanchez advertisers is that they take things that are difficult in life and make them easier for you. I think that's what LL does. I think it's what MortgageCS does, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And it's what Adam Ksebe does. Buying a home is hard. When you're looking for a home, especially down in the Delaware beaches where he is excellent, that is his specialty, really, really competitive, difficult, not a lot of houses for sale, and really competitive when you want to buy one, which is why you need a true great partner in doing that. And Adam Ksebe, spelled Ksebe, is that partner. He and his team, based out of Long and Foster in Bethany Beach, cover all of Delaware, all of Maryland, whether you want to buy or sell. But specifically, he can be your conduit to helping find a house down in the Delaware beaches. There's nobody that knows the area better. There's nobody who is going to find out about these, homes earlier. There's nobody who's going to help you more and be a great partner in doing it than Ksebe. I think he's absolutely the best. So if that is something you want, shoot him a call, text him if you don't want to call. I know people don't like making phone calls anymore. 302-864-8643 is his direct cell, or adam@processrealtor.com. And though I'm talking about Delaware and Maryland, if you need to buy a home in Pennsylvania or Jersey or New York or wherever you live, California, I don't care. And he can't do that for you, but what he can do is be your first step. So what he'll do is he'll talk to you. He'll find out what you want to do, what you need, and then he will go find the realtor for you. He will interview people, which he has done for several Ricky listeners. So if you need any realtor at all, I think your first call should be to Ksebe. Again, Adam Ksebe, Ksebe, 302-864-8643, or adam@processrealtor.com. So how do you think, what?
Sorry, I just saw the headline. Anthony Davis teams with Impractical Jokers gang for TBS prank show. So that's what he's doing.
Well, Lakers got stuff going great. Glad they're focused on the
cooler
championship.
than the Impractical Jokers.
But just to go back to this for a second, the JJ Redick interview. One thing because I went back and I listened to it because of your reaction, and actually Kornblau reached out to me and he was like, I can't wait to hear you talk about this JJ Redick thing. He was like, it was the most smug and annoying I've ever heard him.
Thank you, Kornblau. Yes.
Yeah. So I went back, and what I took from it was...
Oh, you listened to it again?
Again.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I cannot wait. Well, because even through our conversation, I was remembering points where he was very JJ about it. I just wasn't focused on it in the right way.
Yeah.
The real thing is when things start to go bad there, he is going to be so entertainingly frustrated with the media, angry, smug, condescending. It's going to be really bad. So anyway, so how do you think, I think it's clear that if we're talking about a Knicks and Sixers playoff series, trading for Karl Anthony Towns would increase on some level the percentage that the Knicks win that series. I think he is better for that team than Julius Randle is, certainly in the playoffs. The bigger question is how much. So how much do you think, that because I will take our top 3 over their top 3 any day of the week, not even close. But it does increase their chance of beating the Sixers. How do you think it affects that matchup directly?
Well, and the thing about Embiid defensively is that he's both annoyingly dismissive of big rollers, lob catchers, and also guys who can step out and hit threes because he doesn't like to come out, and he shouldn't have to come out. So if you can go 5 out on Embiid, that's probably your best chance of tiring him out and making him annoyed. Odds are, in this situation, they put maybe even like Oubre. Say it's 5-on-5. I think they put Embiid on Anunoby.
Yep. Really?
And,
yeah, because he's not going to move around as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anunoby, maybe Josh Hart, and then they let somebody else cover Towns and say, like, if you want to post up like Kelly Oubre and that's like your best offense, then kind of go for it. It's weird though. I mean, it's going to make Embiid uncomfortable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's hard to, if the floor is spread for Brunson, then he can more safely get into his little like shouldery mid-range game, like digging down in there, getting fouls, have space to move it and stuff. So I think it's going to be, I think either way it's a tough matchup, but I really do think the Knicks are assuming that their wings are good enough and athletic enough and physical enough to be able to hang defensively and also rebound. Like, the Sixers are dealing with the concerns of, okay, who else rebounds outside of Joel? Because the wings that they have, PG, Caleb Martin, and Oubre, are not excellent rebounders. Everyone's talking about the lack of a current power forward, although, again, I do think that'll be rectified during the season. And go, like, where's rebounding going to come from? And now the Knicks have Towns and Anunoby, and assuming that Josh Hart's just going to, like, clean up everything else. And he's a good rebounder. Was a great offensive rebounder last season, and he is, like, one of the best rebounding wings in the league. But it's still, like, that could be an issue in the same way that the Sixers will be an issue. Towns is not Rudy Gobert on the defensive glass.
Right. Yeah, I would still, all things being equal, I would still pick the Sixers over the Knicks. But I do think it raises the Knicks' ceiling a little bit. And I would, last time I looked, let me look.
It raises their ceiling and, like, shrinks their margin of error, I think, is kind of what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is the move. I mean, they could always, you're never going to, yeah, this is the move. I mean, I would
love to see a Knicks-Celtics series. That would be cool. It would be cool to watch them beat each other up. It'd be cool to see the different styles play against each other. It would be really interesting, and I would just love to meet one of them in the conference championship. That would be so nice.
I'm looking to see what the Knicks,
like Knicks Celtics in the 1-4.
Here we go.
Sixers Bucks in the 2-3 or the reverse, whatever.
I'm looking for the Knicks over under at DraftKings for wins because I had liked the over before.
It is just strange. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think this is, if I was a Knicks fan, I'd be going through a journey of, oh no, we broke up something that was so positive. The vibes were good. Everyone's feeling good. It's the Nova Knicks. It's Jalen and his guys. We know these guys. We love them. And maybe Julius will fit into being the sixth man or not. And we'll just trade him to somebody for a center that's going to be fine, and we'll get out from under that contract and then reassess from there.
Knicks over under is 54.5. That's a high number.
That's high.
Yeah.
But Tibbs is going to try to win everything.
Yep.
So I would, if I was the Knicks, I would feel a little bit of that, but I would also feel excited about the possibilities of what you can do with a Brunson cat pick and roll, but it's also, or pick and pop really, but it's also like, that's locking yourself into something so much. It really is. It is a risky move for the Knicks at a time when they kind of didn't have to make a risky move.
Yeah.
And I see the value in it. I understand it. They didn't like sell the farm for anything, but the team vibe is now so affected by whatever Thibodeau gets out of Cat after years of that not working. And I think he's a better, more conscientious defensive player than he was then. But it's interesting. I mean, I'm interested to see it. It's a fun trade. And I think on the Wolves side, like, obviously, I think it is good to get out from under that Cat contract. And I think their team makes a little bit more sense, where it's like, okay, Gobert is like, we are a Gobert-minded team on defense, and he also helps offensively as a roller. And we are Anthony Edwards' team on offense. And I think it really like clarifies some things. If Julius is not playing well, you can play him 25 minutes in a game and then bring Naz Reid in.
Well, I think end of the day they have to trade Randall. I think the next step with them is he will be easier to move than Cat is. He's making less. He's only got 2 years left on his contract.
Well, no, 1 year. It's a player option. So.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, then 1 or 2. Depending on how he's playing. I think you look at it one way or the other. I think
I would be surprised if Randall played pretty good for the Wolves.
Yeah, I just overall I don't think it's tenable with him and Gobert, really. If your team is going to be centered defensively around Gobert, I think it creates offensive issues. And but Randall will be a lot easier to offload with his salary than Cat would be.
And I think Randall with Naz Reid and Naz Reid with Gobert still makes sense in a way that can still like solidify the Wolves' identity that they've had. And I mean, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Randall Gobert, with Naz Reid, Dante, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench. Like that's a good team. That's an interesting team. If Randall has a good year from 3, like he has had in the past, that's a little more interesting. Obviously, holds onto the ball too long, he puts his head down too much, not a real threat defensively. But you can survive a little bit more of that because of how good Gobert is, because of how good Jaden Daniels is defensively, Nickeil, even Ant Conley. Like they're a solid team that could maybe survive that. And I think they will just be, I think they're a more flexible team going forward for the rest of Anthony Edwards' prime without Towns' contract and Towns' like former face of the franchise hanging over them. But it also is a little salary dumpy, but it's interesting. I think Dante is going to be really, really good there between like Conley and Ant and Jaden. I think that's a fun team.
Yep, I agree. Well, it was good to get some real news. How about that? Really exciting. Real exciting, real news. We got far more response on our filter in Person of Theseus. Like a lot of people emailed asking for our cognitive neuroscientist's entire breakdown of the situation.
Hope you like the real news. That part of the podcast is now over.
Well, no. We're going to get back to it because I have some training camp countdown Sixers questions for you. I want to talk about the Zach Lowe thing, but I do want to wrap this up because we did get 2 voicemails that I think are interesting. One is they're both actually specifically pod related. So we got this to 833 Lickface.
Tommy from down the shore, President Harrell, Norman. I'm calling in, like everyone else, about the Ship of Theseus question. And I'm wondering whether you all would agree that the Ricky actually had its own Ship of Theseus quandary. The Ricky often is called the Only Sixers podcast. However, often Spike and Mike will discuss non-Sixers or non-basketball content, such as the Ship of Theseus. And I'm wondering if there's a specific quota of basketball or Sixers talk that the Ricky must maintain in order to still be a Sixers basketball podcast. I don't have an answer. I'm just posing the question, but I think this one could be difficult, and I'd appreciate your thoughts.
Mike, how much?
I don't think that we did a podcast one time that we didn't ever start the podcast.
Yeah, the Sixers, I think it was the Horford year or something. The Sixers were so annoying. I said to Mike, let's just not even bring up the Sixers and never mention it, which was a funny one.
I think that we are, after 11 years, it doesn't matter.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
I think this is the ship.
Now, this one I thought was interesting because I have an overall theory on this, but here is another one.
Even if we're not talking about the Sixers, the tone,
yes, is
and
Sixers
the
fans.
context is underlying
Yep.
what our general moods are about the Sixers.
Well, and even the Ship of Theseus discussion was originated by our conversation with Sean Carroll when we were talking about the process as a thing, as a Ship of Theseus thought experiment. So it's all related somehow. It's always the only Sixers podcast. Shut the fuck up, man. So here's the other one to 833 Lickface.
Hey, Spike, Mike. This is Ben from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm calling because I just listened to the Ship of Theseus discussion, and it made me clarified a little bit whether I'm a Spike or Mike guy. And the answer is, when I was younger, I really identified with Mike's take on philosophical questions being kind of just bullshit that people throw out there to make you feel stupid. But as I've gotten older, I realized that philosophical questions are just fun, and the reason that you talk about them is because it's just something to do. It's a way to while away the August. And I think that's something that maybe it comes with maturity, or maybe it's just because my wife likes philosophical questions, and so, because I love her, I engage with her. But, I think that's the way that I feel. And it made me go back to the dunking versus art question, and I would have absolutely said when I was 12 to 23 years old, dunking is cooler, for sure. But then when you realize that the myriad ways that art impacts humanity, you go, of course, playing music in any capacity is cooler. And dunking is always going to be cool. Do I wish I could dunk? Fuck yes. But it doesn't matter because art is always going to supersede that. I love Kelly Oubre. Dude's a fucking moron, but he can dunk like a motherfucker. So I don't know what that says, but Mike, I think you might be in the throes of immaturity in these two specific areas, and you should reconsider. So, basketball question, Kelly Oubre can dunk like a motherfucker. He can also miss dunks like a motherfucker. Who else misses more dunks than Kelly Oubre? Love you guys.
All right. So this goes to my theory of you either die a Mike guy or live long enough to become a Spike guy. Because I even think as you've gotten older, you have become more similar to me
No way.
in terms of how you view things.
No way.
But what do you? He was essentially just calling you, like, he was saying you're immature.
Sure, yeah, for sure. I love the idea that, like, if you can dunk, you're a dumbass, and if you play guitar, you're adding art to the world.
Well,
Like,
you are.
It's very funny that the idea that there's no, like, guitarists that are dumb is funny to imagine.
Does anyone miss more dunks than Oubre? Oubre does miss a lot of dunks. We do like how much he dunks. His basketball question. Oh,
Yeah, I mean-
yes, CJ?
Also saying Oubre plays guitar as well, just to not slander Kelly Oubre.
Yeah.
He
Oh, does
fits
he?
both. Yeah.
And
you go,
I don't
CJ.
think Kelly Oubre, well, I don't know if he's dumb or not. He makes the mistake of trying to sound smarter than he might be sometimes. He uses words the wrong way, which may make him seem dumber than he is, So I don't know if Kelly Oubre's dumb.
I don't think he's dumb. I think he rules. I think dunking rules. I think he does miss a lot of dunks, but good for him. Andre Drummond also misses a bunch of dunks. Mm-hmm. The iconic Drummond-Torrey Craig transition moment with the Bulls last season.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of any more, like, notable
Dunk missers?
dunkers. I can't think of any at the moment, but I don't mind. I love a missed dunk because it means you're going in aggressively, you're going in hard, and when there's nothing worse than going up soft and then missing and not getting fouled.
Yeah, it's made us insane for years. Thaddeus Young, a notable goes up soft when he shouldn't. If the guy had just dunked more basketballs, it would have been so much better. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by MortgageCS. As I said, what are you laughing at now?
Just learning how to play one guitar and being like, I'm contributing art to society.
No, that's not what he said. See, this is what you do. This is
very
this is
funny
your
when you- the way he said
immaturity
it.
shining through.
It's very funny.
It truly is. Little
This
kid
is
Mike.
very funny.
Yeah.
That was funny. You framed it to be like, one dunking idiots, guitar, art to society. That's the foundation upon which we live.
Well, I mean, okay. The rights to Ricky. I'm not doing this again. The rights to Ricky. We'll do it next August.
I just thought his framing was a funny way to do it. So
yes.
I enjoyed it.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by MortgageCS. Become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. As I said with Ksebe, hard things in life, Ricky partners make things easier. MortgageCS makes not only getting a mortgage, but then you get a mortgage to get a house. So they will make getting a house easier on you because they will be a great partner in getting a mortgage. They're there for one thing, and that is to be your partner in getting a mortgage. These bigger mortgage companies, the non-independent ones, yet MortgageCS is independent, a lot of times have deals and incentives with the lenders, with the banks. So sometimes they could lead you toward one place to get the money, and they could be benefiting more than you. MortgageCS completely independent in that, which is incredibly important. Now, it's a really interesting housing market in that we're in that time, fall, winter, where there's not quite as many people looking for homes, which can be a good time to look for homes because there's fewer people out there, but mortgage rates going down a little bit, which may mean there are more people who are involved. So that makes it even more important that you need a partner like MortgageCS. They're going to help you in a number of ways to get that home. They're going to help you in telling you, here's how much you should bid, here's how much you should attack it. They're going to help you in that they're well respected in that community. So when somebody is looking to decide who to sell the home to, they're sure that it's going to clear if it's going to close, if it's MortgageCS. They're going to communicate with you all the time. They're always available every second of every day. So if you have a question, need a pre-qualification letter at night or on the weekend, they're available for you. And something for like every Ricky listener, you're a first-time home buyer, they'll help you out. Your family member that is there, somebody refinancing, they'll help you out with that. Also, we've had, believe it or not, we have Ricky listeners who make enough money to have 2 homes, and they have helped people with their second home. Here is how committed they are to help you. I'm going to give you the CEO Ben's direct cell phone number. Text him right now. Ask him what he thinks about the Knicks-Wolves trade. He's not going to have any actual feedback, but it'll be funny for you to ask him. 267-391-7425. That is Ben's cell phone number. 267-391-7425. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. You can set up a consultation that way. You can see the awesome little microsite they've built for our listeners. If you don't trust me, I understand it. Sometimes I'm a liar. Go to Google, look up the reviews there, and you can see now hundreds of 5-star reviews. This advertisement, not a commitment to lend or extend credit. MortgageCS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information. All right. Some more as we count down to training camp. We're 3 days away. We're going to have, what's it called next week? We're going to have Media Day. Lots of quotes on Media Day. Fucking love that. All the guys are already in town. They went to some Embiid charity event yesterday. Everybody moaned. They've been there for weeks working out with each other. Love it. So here's some more questions for Mike. Mike, at the end of the year, and we look at the GP line next to Joel Embiid, games played, how many games does Joel Embiid play this year?
51.
I had 53 in my head. So same thing. All right. I think we'll disagree on this one. Does Joel Embiid this season play in at least one back-to-back?
Yeah.
We're safe. He's going to. He's going to force them to. We know they don't want him to, but he's definitely going to.
Yeah. But hopefully it's just like one when he's pissed off.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe 2. I would say 2. I would take the over on 1.5. I would take the over.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. If there is, one more Embiid question. When we see Embiid, when we're looking at him, the first time we see a preseason game, which I think October 17th is the first one, will Joel Embiid be, in quote, truly the best shape of his life?
No. No. Come on.
But even with the Team USA thing and everything?
That was forever. That was so many Augusts ago.
It was. It does seem like last year, doesn't it? The Team USA stuff?
Forever.
Okay.
No, he's gonna take his time to ramp up. That's what he does.
Okay. All right. Next one. If there is an internal conflict between 2 Sixers players this year, who are the 2 most likely for it to be between?
Interesting.
I have mine.
Does coach count?
No. Do you want me to give you mine, or do you want to go first?
You give me yours.
Kelly Oubre and Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
Eric Gordon does not seem like a has time for Kelly Oubre shit kind of guy.
Okay, I can see that. And I feel like Oubre is the obvious person in this, but I do think that might be a little bit of a wrong reputation. He just seems like he's a fuck around guy, but
well,
he works hard.
Yep.
I'm gonna flip and say Kyle Lowry and Paul George.
Oh, that's a good one. Is there any particular, reason?
I think Lowry's just a hard ass.
Yep.
And will hold people to a high standard.
Accountable.
Yeah, in a Chris Paul type of way. And I think there might be some Paul George coasting that could. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but if we're saying that there is a conflict, I could see that being one.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Final preseason or training camp countdown question. Of the following players, who is most likely to not be a Sixer after the trade deadline? I took away the obvious, will definitely be a Sixer, guys. Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, Andre Drummond, Gershon Yabusele. Who is most likely to not be a Sixer after the trade deadline?
Probably Kyle Lowry. Just to stack contracts. I mean, if the obvious ones are like Reggie Jackson and KJ Martin,
then
I would say Lowry. Maybe Drummond, which would be a bummer, but I think if Daryl has to make that kind of a move,
we found that he doesn't value that position very much anyway. Yeah,
exactly. But I hope that it doesn't happen because I would, I wouldn't want to leave. Trading Drummond would mean even more Embiid feeling like he has to play, that kind of thing. So
I like the Drummond one. I hadn't thought of that. I thought Oubre because it's a nice number and it's only 1 year. It's a player option next year, but a $7-8 million contract is a good number to stack. And it's not particular. Caleb Martin's a great contract, but it's a great contract you want to hang on to because there's got years left on it. Kelly Oubre, not so much. So I might switch Drummond, but my initial gut was that it was Oubre just because of the number.
Yeah, I could see that. Because KJ's $8 million. And then you can stack Reggie Jackson, Kyle Lowry, Jared McCain, if you wanted to, and start to creep that number higher as to what you can take back in a trade.
What's McCain's number? Like 5? Something
4.
Like that? 4.
This year is 4.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just depends on who becomes available, who's interesting.
And I didn't put McCain on the list because I think it's probably reasonably likely he gets included already. That's why he wasn't on my initial list.
Yeah, I think we talked about it at the very end of last podcast. Kelly Olynyk being a possibility. His number is 12-8. So you could get that from KJ Martin and Jared McCain. Gets you that. So
can you imagine the first 2-3 years of this podcast, us saying that we were trading our this year's first round pick and KJ Martin for Kelly Oubre?
Kelly
Olynyk, yeah. We would have jumped off a roof.
We started doing this podcast before Olynyk was in the league, I believe.
I'm sure. We started this podcast 11 years ago. He hasn't been in the league for 11 years.
No, he has. Exactly 11 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
He was drafted in 2013, so it was right around the same time. Yeah.
So next thing, it reported this week per Andrew Marchand of The Athletic, Zach Lowe laid off by ESPN. It was noted that one of the key factors was he had a 7-figure salary, which is a lot of money. Congratulations to Zach on that contract. It's a lot of money. I think he has, I don't know where it's been reported, but I think he has significant time left on that contract. So I assume it's possible we don't see, unless he wants to, we could not see Zach doing anything publicly for a while. A number of people suggesting we hire Zach, and I think people have a sort of outsized view of how much money the pod
Well, if they're getting
earns?
paid, we could pay them the veterans minimum, I think.
we could pay him the veterans minimum. Zach has always been good to us, coming onto this podcast, inviting us onto his podcast. And my gut is that wherever he lands, he will enjoy his time better than whatever he was doing now. ESPN, Ethan wrote about this. Ethan Strauss wrote about it. It's a crazy place to work right now. The amount of TV you got to do, the sort of, people fighting over what your job actually is, whether it's to write or to podcast or to be on TV, and nobody. It's like when your teachers in school all gave you a test on the same day because they didn't talk to each other. It seems like working at ESPN is sort of like that. So, people mention the Ringer, obviously natural fit. I don't know so much with Bill Simmons, maybe even leaving that in 2025 if it is so much. But wherever Zach will have a numerous choices about what to do. Even if he wants to go independent, would certainly be able to be successful doing that. So I think it was just wishing Zach the best and being sure that he will land somewhere that makes him happy.
If he had more years on his contract or more time, why would they lay him off now?
So this is one of the things, unfortunately, I've learned in my time in management is that when you, and sort of corporate finance, when you move somebody's salary to that, it is a different line. It doesn't really count against your bottom line anymore. So when you're reporting to, what's it called? Shareholders about what your profits are. And Disney is in a place where their profits are sort of declining, ESPN specifically because of the carriage fees going down, that you have to show a certain number every quarter that they can take Zach's out. And that is an important thing right this second. They can take Zach's salary and move it to a different line. And it doesn't look at operating expenses. It looks as, this is
Dead money.
Severance, dead money. It doesn't count toward that number anymore. So my gut would be they had an urgent situation right now in terms of, ESPN's been cutting for a while. A lot of people have lost their jobs for a few years. So my gut would be they saw a even forgetting about with a year left, it's the week before the NBA season gets into gear. So and I think they're probably, if they're going to pursue Shams, they'll probably need as much money available as possible because that guy will have quite a bidding war. So my gut is it was a more urgent thing to clear current operating expenses why they would do it.
It's so...
Well, the corporate finance thing, when I learned...
It's like shady accounting, whatever. That's fine.
When I learned, this was years ago, I thought the only thing that mattered to companies was like profit. And depending on where the company is at some point, I remember this was probably a decade ago. They were like, nah, we don't really care about profit right now. We just care about like top line revenue. So it doesn't even matter if we're like profiting money. It just matters that we're bringing in money. And now a company like Disney, like the top line revenue is, they have to show profit, especially when that line is going down. So I know tons of people don't find that interesting, but you asked. So
yeah. I just can't imagine why anyone would give more of a shit about Shams breaking something 11 seconds before the team releases a press release more than like Zach Lowe being one of the best basketball analysts out there.
I think it also speaks to ESPN overall, though they have websites and podcasts, they're a TV company. I mean, at the end of the day. And
they've certainly become more of that over the...
Yeah. So I don't, Zach writes phenomenally and podcasts phenomenally. I don't know how much like Zach's specific skill set fits into what they value at the moment, but I agree with you. I'd much rather have Zach than Shams. I actually looked at this whole Woj leaving thing and like thought to myself, well, maybe ESPN will get out of this business of this annoying sort of report things a minute before they actually happen, but I don't think that's going to happen. That wouldn't be my...
It makes me cringe so hard. I'm like thinking like we're going to sign Shams and then he breaks that like Bradley Beal is injured before anyone else does. And like the executives like smugly nodding, being like, we got that. We got that. And that's an ESPN story. It's like, who gives a fuck, dude? Like, I
actually think the most troubling thing about it isn't even the mechanism itself, like isn't even the what they're paying for. It's that it's on Twitter before it's on TV or their website. Yeah. and it gets aggregated immediately. So they're doing the work for everybody else. Nobody cares where that news came from.
I really don't understand it. But yeah, I mean, it shows what it's been always, on some level, it's always been this way. Like there's been a handful of people at ESPN that have like had interesting thoughts, but there also have been so many people that are just narrative and yelling and saying shit. And I don't know, fucking Pat McAfee seemingly being on TV for 18 hours a day. Like there's just, I don't know why people give a fuck about that. As fun as it was to make fun of JJ, it was like, I do somewhat ascribe to being like, hey, there is a market for people caring about interesting thoughts of basketball. And the way he framed it is like, sugar is good, was frustrating and smug. But like, yeah, obviously, if you care
I like
enough
both,
about something,
by the way. I love yelling about narrative stuff, but
yeah, it just seems like, I don't know, it seems so tiresome to me. So, but people, that's what they've determined that people watch, and that's how they make money. So whatever. But there's only a handful of people there at ESPN that have like an interesting thought anymore, and they're not. It's I don't. Yeah, whatever. It sucks. It's a
good luck to Zach.
Zach will be fine.
Zach will be fine.
Zach will be fine. It'll be whatever. But like, culturally in the sports media landscape, the people that are just loudly saying shit, are going to continue winning over the people that.
Well, I don't think they win. I specifically, I think they win on one in that company. But I think the cool thing about where media has gone is that people like Zach, who do provide a service that people want, can just go do it on their own without a boss at all if they want to, and maybe make as much money because there is an appetite for it. Like it just becomes more splintered. So the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Briggs Auction. We love Briggs Auction. They're fucking balling right now, Briggs Auction. Briggs Auction is a family-owned and operated auction house there in Delco. You don't have to worry about being in Delco because they are online. So what I want you to do is download the Briggs Auction app in the App Store or Google Play. I have the app. For some reason, I'm a web guy. I like the web, but I love online auctions. They have auctions every week. Big estate auctions, discovery auctions, collectibles, sporting goods, cars, houses, clothing. I've gotten sneakers from there. I've gotten cool little posters from years ago. I love online auctions. I think they're a lot of fun. And what I love to say about Briggs is they have shit that you didn't know that you even wanted until you looked at it. So download the app, check in every week, see all the cool items. Now it's time for the CJ Briggs item auction of the week.
Yes, this week I have 3 Art Deco style cruise posters. Whenever I'm
those
looking
are cool.
at Briggs, I always look for Philadelphia-centric art. And I think the Normandy one has been on here before, but the set of 3 is now new in this lot.
That's pretty cool, man.
This Queen Elizabeth II has a voyage to Philadelphia up top. So thought it was a cool little piece. We have Billy Penn up here in the right. And this 3 sets going for 5 beans right now. But often I find you can like set a higher bid. So you got to be a little more competitive with your bidding on what you think the price is going to be eventually.
Yeah, there was a thing. Now, I haven't read this magazine, obviously. I don't even know if it still exists, but there was a lot of Mad magazines from the 50s and 60s in the collectibles portion in the October 4th auction. Really cool. If you win an auction, you can pick it up at Briggs. They have open pickup on Saturdays. I think Tom, regular Twitch chatter, Tom was actually chatting from Briggs Auction earlier today. He had won some sports cards. There's a bunch of Phillies bobbleheads in this auction too. Or you can do it by appointment during the week, or they can work with you on a shipper. And if you want to auction stuff off because they need stuff to do it, that's how you can't do anything. You can't go anywhere but Briggs. So send an email to info@briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. Here is an email to rightsrickysanchez.com from Matt. Dear Mike, Spike, CJ, the Danny, Big Barker, and Cornblow and Cornblow, I have a, quote, friend that we have an ongoing argument that is building into a feud. During your last pod, this is from a few pods ago, something was mentioned, and I finally said it's time to take this to a higher authority. As the Ricky, I need you to be judge, jury, and executioner. During free agency, there was chatter of a former Sixers player possibly being bought out, and some of the Twitterverse decided it was time for him to return. I, of course, am talking about the one Ben Simmons. I've mentioned to this, quote, friend, and I said, I would rather have Markelle Fultz back than ever see Simmons play basketball ever again. He, in turn, said he would, quote, welcome Simmons back with open arms because he likes a good redemption story, and that Fultz, quote, made up his injury. I could tell that he was dead serious. He completely ignores that Simmons lied about mental illness, quitted on his team city, is generally not interested in the sport he gets paid a ton of money to play, all while thinking Fultz doesn't deserve a shot anywhere. For the record, I don't want Fultz back. I wish him luck somewhere else. We are both avid listeners of the pod. I will leave it to you to decide this man's fate. It's such an insane take. Non-basketball question. What's a weird meal your family would make growing up that you loved? Example, same friend's mom used to feed them raw potatoes and something called, quote, macaroni and milk. Raw potatoes. I would much rather have Markelle Fultz back than Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that earlier this offseason. I've been wanting Markelle back for a couple of years. Like he's as a big physical guard that can penetrate off the bench. That would have just been really nice. Now they are a little too guard heavy and could really use the exact kind of thing that Simmons is theoretically good at. I'm just saying like the kind, if you ship a Theseus to Ben Simmons's name and personality away from him and just had like skill set and it was like better Jared Vanderbilt, basically, whatever. Then you go like, yeah, they could use that guy rebounding, passing, big wing, that kind of thing. And he doesn't shoot, so you wouldn't play him more than like 16 minutes a game or whatever. I could hear that, but I don't think that Ben's ever coming back, and I don't think Markelle's ever coming back either. But I think that would be a slightly more likely and more accepted than if Ben did. I do think Daryl is exactly the kind of person who would try to get Ben back.
Oh, you think so? Even though he fucked him directly? Yeah.
I think Daryl is just like, I think Daryl will get Harden back. Like, I don't think there is not, he is so singularly focused on how to make the team better, and really does, for a guy who is very well known and you would think that has like a big ego, he does kind of take his ego out of it in that kind of way. It's like a different kind of,
I think it's impressive, actually.
It's impressive on some level, and it's a particular kind. I'm sure Daryl has plenty of ego in a different way, but he's not like, this guy fucked me or he was mean to me, I'm not going to go sign him. I don't think that's. I think talent will win out, and I think if he could get Ben at the minimum, I think he would go like, yeah, absolutely, bring him in.
And I want to be clear. It's funny, both of the Markelle Fultz fake injury and the Ben fake mental illness. I don't want to say I don't want to bet. That's a little bit too. They used it as an excuse. Well, here's my.
Certainly, the line of generally not interested in the sport, he gets paid a ton of money to play. Like, I could get more on board with that. I just want to a little bit distance myself from the other part of it.
Well, I don't think either of them were actively. What happened to Markelle was largely a mental thing. That I think the shoulder injury, I don't think it was fake in that he said, let's fake this shoulder injury. I think the people around him were trying to give him like a soft landing or something. I think it was a very tough time for him. And I don't think they could even compute what was going on. I don't think it was injury related. Yeah. And the Ben thing, there's clearly something going on with him mentally.
Absolutely.
But the thing that he was admitting to, like, I don't think he believes that. So it was this weird sort of lie. Like, what do you say about the joke thing? Like a hat on a hat? Like, I think it was almost this lie on top of a lie or something, or a truth on top of a lie. It was a very strange situation for both of them. So I wish them both well, except for Ben.
Markelle, sure. Markelle was a very sad situation that you're like, man, I just want this kid who things got really good for so fast and then so bad so fast, because he wasn't, I mean, he's a big prospect when he went to Washington, but like he grew very fast and all of a sudden became the number one prospect in the country. And And it was just like, man, you wish. He seems to be struggling. I feel bad for the kid. That's what it always was. We as a podcast did like a big get well card for Markel that he held up and was touched by or whatever. Ben, it was just like because it was a little bit later in his career, and also he just kept sort of caving in on the things he couldn't do and getting more defensive and smug, and it doesn't have the personality where he lets people in, and yet still puts out the same video every summer of him doing stuff that he has never done in an NBA game and making the same emojis. It was just a little bit like, fuck you, dude.
Yes.
Fuck you, man. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Have a little bit more self-awareness than he never has. It seems like Markel was a little bit like, I kind of can't control what's happening to me, and it's sad. And he's made a solid role player-y career out of it, playing for the Magic, and I'm interested to see where he lands. I do think he can still help the basketball team, but with Ben, it is more of like all right, so you're just like this. Okay? So, but I don't think it's really in anyone's ability to say like this is what happened to their mental state, and that's why they're like this or something like that. I can just only comment on how it feels like Ben is acting, which is shitty and a bummer to be around.
Yes. So we got an email. This was an amazing moment, I thought. We got an email from Greg to writesrickysanchez@gmail.com. Happy August again, writes Ricky Sanchez crew. Last year, I got both my mom and dad into the war on drugs. Now they listen to I Don't Live Here Anymore all the time at their place. On Thursday this week, I am going to take both of them to the show in Madison, Wisconsin. My parents recently celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary, and I had an idea I wanted to run by you as friends of the band. I was thinking it would be fun if somehow they got a shout out or got to hear Living Proof, their favorite song. Is that something you could pass along? If so, their names are Joni and Rodney. If not, of course, no worries. I just figured I had to try since the Ricky had such a unique intersection of my sports and music fandoms. All the best to you guys. Thanks for reading. So I responded to him and I said, I will forward this along. I said, I don't actually have Adam's contact, but I'll send it to the others. I said, no promises. I said, this is, they're a very big band doing a big concert. I said, don't take offense if nobody does this. So I forwarded it along to Charlie and to Dave and to Eliza. And then on Instagram, I saw this from Greg. Thanks so much to the War on Drugs for the 40th anniversary dedication to my parents. And thanks to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez for the assist. What an amazing night of music with them, Lucius, and the National. I think it is so cool that a couple celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary in Madison, Wisconsin, was going to see one of the biggest rock bands there is in the War on Drugs. They heard a dedication for their wedding anniversary at this concert and had to be explained as to how this happened because it is a Philadelphia basketball podcast. I just thought is really awesome. And I thought it was so cool that the Gang of War on Drugs did that.
Very sweet.
Nice. Yeah.
Good folks.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
And by the way, happy wedding anniversary. The Cooler comment of the pod, if you'd like to sign up for Cooler, which is a podcast app we're working with where people can talk to each other in the comments without, so far at least, all the comments are cool. CJ, I know you've seen the comments. They're all cool. There's not like Twitter fighting or anything. It's actually pretty nice. Now, if it gets big, maybe it'll be Twitter fighting. I don't know. But go to cooler.fm, use code LickFace if you want to download the app. We have a bunch of beta testers using it. Travis says, I like how we've heard the Jigsaw opening around 200 times, and they still can't resist talking with Doug after it plays and responding to the ultimate game site statement.
Yeah.
It is a funny thing to notice. And
It juices me up every time.
And it's not even his, he stole it from a football player. So it's not even his, thing that he said because it doesn't even apply to basketball. There is no ultimate game in basketball. There is one in football. So, and here we are talking about it again.
I vow to you, I will never stop responding to that.
Yeah. Nor
that
will
is
I.
my solemn promise.
Yep. We got this call to 833 Lickface.
Why do they play it again next year?
Wait, what's that?
Why do they play it again next year?
Well, it's clearly not the ultimate game.
Yeah, there never
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
The last championship. They should do a like series finale of the NBA.
Yeah, where they just
This is
actually
it.
do play the ultimate game.
This is the ultimate game. We're done after this.
Get all the old characters back to see who can win the ultimate game.
Yep.
We got this called the 833 Lake Face.
What's going on, fellas? You guys have been subjecting Mike to a lot of late, and so why not up the ante a little bit here? Have Mike do the nut test live on the pod. I mean, it's a win-win. If Mike succeeds and passes the test, he can eat whatever nut he's testing. And if not, you guys can pull a Zaire Smith with the Sixers and claim a local podcaster has had a allergic reaction live on the pod. I'm sure you can get some more press from that.
Wow.
Best of luck, Mike. Hey.
Mike, nut test? Do we do macadamias on the pod?
If you want to give my mom a heart attack. I mean, we could try it.
Oh my God.
We could try it next Saturday.
It would be so good.
We're doing next, yeah.
Yeah,
We could try it
we'll
next
do.
Saturday morning.
Yeah. Oh man. Should we let everyone vote on the nut? What nuts do you know? Cashews are okay. You know, almonds are okay.
Almonds and pistachios have been okay for a while. Pistachios my whole life. Almonds within the last like 5 years. Cashews were the one I tried at the doctor's office, and they're good. Pecans I did here, and they are good. So I bought a couple. So I have I have pine nut, macadamia nut, maybe hazelnut, and maybe walnut here. I bought some at the store. So we could try it next and just set an alarm every 15 minutes where I have a little bit of a bigger portion.
Yeah.
We could try
CJ,
it.
do you have a vote on the nut? On what nut we do?
Do I or CJ?
CJ.
I'm also not familiar with many nuts like Mike was before this. So
Okay. Wow.
yeah, maybe I embark on my own little nut journey.
Wow.
Everyone on a nut journey.
We're all in some ways on a nut journey, I think.
Yeah. Yep. We got this from Sophie to RickySanchez.com. Hi, Spike, Mike, and CJ. My husband and I got home last week from dropping off our newly minted college kid at their school in England. It's in a beautiful, super remote corner of the country, a big change for a kid used to life in South Jersey, but it's been their dream for years. As we were hanging out in their communal kitchen, wolfing down some fish and chips, another student wandered in and we all started shooting the shit. Turns out this guy's parents booked it at the airport after moving him in so they could catch their long scheduled flight to the US to see Amos Lee perform live at Red Rocks. I heroically refrained from sharing the long and sordid tale of how difficult it can be for CJ, I think, to distinguish between an encore and a set, and more importantly, said the name to a child from a random village in the Midlands who will almost certainly never listen to the Ricky. But I was motivated by duty and by how funny the entire situation was. My thanks to Amos and the chef, and if memory serves, to CJ too.
CJ?
Thank you, Sophie. CJ, any comments about not being able to tell between...
Misconstrued.
No.
Misconstrued.
You construed it, buddy. It was construed by you.
Blown way out of proportion. That's my comment.
Yeah. And then finally, Mike, I had to play this for you because we did the whole lore episode because we were confused by the people who have joined, somewhat recently over the last few years. So the lore episode was for people who had joined recently and did not know the story behind many of the things. We got a voicemail from somebody who started listening to the podcast a month and a half ago.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's Spike. Hey, Mike. This is my first time calling in, and I think coming up on my month and a half long anniversary of listening to your podcast. I remember a few weeks ago you guys were talking about what new listeners why did they start listening? I did not know about you guys for forever. I've been a fan since Ish Smith. That's when I became conscious as a human. But yeah, that inspired me to become a fan of Sixers and Ish Smith. And it's just so funny that finding your guys' podcast has been so crazy to me because it's exactly what you guys described during the process and everything is exactly what I was doing. And the most recent pod where you guys were talking about, not most recent, but we're talking about how all the lore, the retweet Armageddon, I remember that, but I just didn't know you guys were behind it. I had draft lottery parties with my family, and I had no idea or not my whole family, but like me and my dad, I had no idea that was like a thing. It was crazy finding this niche little fan base that actually fully I relate to. Also, question, tell me why I'm pretty sure Yabusele, French Ben Wallace, is going to be the X factor for the Sixers in the playoffs this year. Imagine if he was on our team during the next series. We would have won. Thank you. Hey, it's Tommy again. Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention the way I found you guys was Spike. When you joined 94 WIP, you were your defense of Joel Embiid is what got me to find this podcast, because nobody on that station, as much as I love it, ever defends Embiid. That needed to happen. I've been fighting for my life for Embiid against other Sixers fans, my friends, my family, and then finally you came along and did it on the radio, which needed to happen. Too many haters for him. Thanks.
So not only weird that he found the pod a month and a half ago, but that he is a process guy who knew about Retweet Armageddon and somehow was not aware of the podcast. Yeah. Now, thank you for listening to the show on WIP, but it just seems like we hit critical mass of those people, that there weren't people out there that I'm sure not all of them listen to us, but is certainly aware. It's really stunning.
I think this is what it must feel like for like political canvassers to be like, you haven't heard about this, but like, this is the thing. Yeah, it's for you. You did it. This is exactly the thing that we all did. Like the people that we want to vote for, like did it for you, and you haven't heard about it. And like, how do we get it to you? We don't know.
Actually, now thinking about it, it seems like I hate to bring up another music reference, Mike, but when I discovered that I liked Lana Del Rey like 8 months ago, Jason and AU were like, "How do you not already like Lana Del Rey?" And I was like, "I never heard her music before." And they were like, "But of what you like specifically, this seems almost so down your alley. It seems impossible." And she's remarkably famous. And I was like, I just never tried it. So
yeah, it's like we cut the price of insulin. You take insulin and it's less expensive. And we did that for you. And you didn't know. Like, that's got to be so frustrating. And that's, but I'm glad, hey, they found us eventually.
To his point about, he mispronounced Yabusele, but I don't count on him to be as good as Josh Hart. But I think when we look at the ceiling of what we would hope Yabusele would be, it would be that sort of player. And I can imagine him being a playoff hero in that way. Because when we talk about the rebounding, at least he's kind of a strong motherfucker, and he's a better shooter than Hart, I think. So that is the playoff case for Yabusele, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's bigger, but not as good with the ball in his hands.
Yeah. I think in a general, well, I say it in a general way.
Yeah. I have a real hard time. I love the signing. The signing was great. That's the kind of signing I've been asking for a decade. It seems like other teams just grab somebody from Europe who's like, hey, we got them now out of nowhere. And we gave them like a 3-year, $12 million deal, and they're good. Sixers hadn't done that in a while. It feels, obviously he was very, very good in the Olympics, had a bunch of great moments. And a sort of big body four that can compete on the defensive end, switch a little bit, and also be physical on offense. And when he's going right, hit some shots is what they need. It's just hard to know if the game is going to translate. I think there's a very wide range of outcomes in Yabusele is either buried on the bench and he's the new Korkmaz, or he becomes like, Mike Scott, when Mike Scott was very vital to this team, hitting the corner three, cash out against the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for Yabusele to be like very in the mix and beat out, become the, I don't know, he could, perfect world, he's starting for France, So perfect world, he's starting for us. If they go like, oh, we need more, until they trade for the power forward that they're going to trade for, or if somebody gets hurt or whatever. I wouldn't mind if Caleb Martin or Oubre came off the bench and they were just like, Yabusele is good enough at the NBA level. He's hitting enough shots. We are going to start him and have a little bit more heft to the front line. I would love that. I think it's probably more likely that he is in and out of the rotation and ends up not making that much of a difference. But I want to believe I don't think it shouldn't translate, but it feels like I've been hurt too many times before from your Luawus and your Korkmazes playing international basketball.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, but I agree with you. This is the shot that you take because you find a diamond in the rough like this, and the whole basketball universe was saying who's going to sign Gershon and Yabusele, and we got him. So it's a chance worth taking as a
and at least
minimum guy.
Embiid, another guy to speak French too, and that was helpful with Batum. I think this is nice.
All right, we will.
Maxey should learn French.
He should grow up, learn a little French.
The entire team learns French. That's what they should be doing. I'm adding that to the Napa situation. They go to Napa and they surprise Joel by having everybody on the team speaks French now.
Yeah.
And Joel is so touched by that. He has signed a max contract. You have to speak fluent French for the Sixers to play for the Sixers.
Can you imagine Tyrese Maxey walking up to Embiid and going, "Je m'appelle Tyrese."
That's it.
What?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. Ricky Council, fluent French. Everybody lock in. You got to do it. And I think then you can communicate defensively. Defensively. Most other NBA players don't speak French, can't understand you. That's a way to speak. But you can understand English. You can understand their plays, but they wouldn't understand ours.
Oh, it would be incredible.
I really think that is a hidden advantage. So I think it's time. There's still some time. Get on Duolingo or whatever you're going to use. Hire a French teacher. You're not practicing anyway. You can learn French when your body is tired, but you can't practice after games. So I think really, there was a really sweet video of I'm forgetting the specifics, but I think it was at a wedding. Husband is white, wife was, and her family were Korean, and he learned to speak Korean at the wedding and did like a speech in Korean at the wedding, and his wife didn't know. It was, the new wife didn't know about it, and it was touching and it was emotional. I want that happening for Joel. Everybody speaking French during the season. I think this is our competitive advantage. I'm all in on this. I can't believe I haven't thought about it before. I was excited about Batum speaking French. I'm excited about Yabusele speaking French. Everybody should speak French.
Maybe they
should change the name to the French Sixers. It should be that's our thing.
Maybe
Daryl, I found it.
Maybe we should do a pod entirely in French. Maybe you should grow up and learn a little French.
That's tough. On the honeymoon, I spoke a little French. I certainly can't do anything more than that. But I think this is good.
Well, not only we have a big pod this week in that camp will have started. We will have had media day, but next Saturday, Mike eats a nut.
Okay.
Nut test.
Right, I will have the EpiPen right here. Some Benadryl just in case. We've done the what was the muscle relaxer pod was a pretty iconic one. I guess Mike Benadryl near death anaphylactic shock pod would be good as well.
I feel like every pod's done we've never done the drunk pod or whatever, but a Mike might die because he eats a nut he shouldn't pod is a nice leap that I don't think anybody else has done. So
I definitely got drunk on a podcast before.
Well, yeah, but it hasn't been the specific point of the pod do the pod where everybody's drunk. All right. We will talk to you next time. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. Like face. Someone tell me how to say that in French.